Tasya ginanjana shalakaya chakshun militam yena tasmai Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalan Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vidam Dham Satjivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakans Vidamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, chapter 6, text 27, we will begin by reciting the Roman transliteration and then the translation. In unison, you can join if you'd like. Prashanta manasam yenam yogi nam sukam uttamam upaiti shanta rajasam brahma bhutam akalmasam. Translation. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest happiness. By virtue of his identity with Brahman, he is liberated. His mind is peaceful, his passions are quieted, and he is freed from sin. 28. Yunjan evam sadatmanam yogi vigata kalmashaha sukhena brahma sangsparsham atyantam sukham ashnute. Translation. Steady in the self, being freed from all material contamination, the yogi achieves the highest perfectional stage of happiness in touch with the supreme consciousness. Text 29. Sarvabhuta stamatmanam sarvabhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshanaha. Translation. A true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized man sees me everywhere. Text 30. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sacha me na pranashyati. Translation. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost. Text 31. Sarvabhuta stitam yo mam bhajant yekatvam astitaha sarvata vartmano peace yogi mai vartate. Translation. The yogi who knows that I and the Supersoul within all creatures are one worship me and remain always in me in all circumstances. Text 32. Atma pamyena sarvatra samam pashyati yorjuna sukham vayadi vadukam sayogi paramotamataha. Translation. He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings, both in their happiness and distress, O Arjuna. Text 33. Arjuna uvacha yayom yogas tvaya prokta samyena madhusudana etasyaham na pashyami chanchalatvat stitam stiram. Arjuna said, O Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady. Text 34. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati balavadridham tasyaham nigraham manye bhayor eva sadushkaram. Translation. For the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna, and to subdue it it seems to me, more difficult than controlling the wind. 35. Sri Bhagavan uvacha asangshaya maho abaho mano durnigraham chalam abhyesena tu konteya vairagyena cha griyate. Translation. The Blessed Lord said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by constant practice and by detachment. Text 36. Asangya tatmana yogo dushprapat iti me matihi vashyatmana tu yatata shakyo vaptum upayataha. Translation. For one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work. But he whose mind is controlled and who strives by right means is assured of success. That is my opinion. Last text, text 37. Arjuna uvacha ayati shradaya peto yogachalita manasaha aprapya yoga samsiddhim kamgatim krishna gacchati. Translation. Arjuna said, what is the destination of the man of faith who does not persevere, who in the beginning takes to the process of self-realization, but who later desists due to worldly mindedness, and thus does not attain perfection in mysticism? So we'll go back to text 27. Translation. The yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest happiness. By virtue of his identity with Brahman, he is liberated, his mind is peaceful, his passions are quieted, and he is freed from sin. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Brahmabhuta is the state of being free from material contamination and situated in the transcendental service of the Lord. Madbhaktim labate param. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 54. One cannot remain in the quality of Brahman, the Absolute, until one's mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord. Savai mana Krishna padaravindayaho. To be always engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, or to remain in Krishna consciousness, is to be factually liberated from the mode of passion and all material contamination. So we have to get to this Brahmabhuta stage so we can achieve the further stages, such as pure devotional service. So we have to be freed from all desiring and all lamenting, na shochati, na kankshati. And so he had, by virtue of his identity with Brahman, he's liberated. So he sees that he is spirit soul. He sees that he's part and parcel of Krishna. Mamai vamsho jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatanaha. He doesn't identify with the material world anymore. He is full of bliss and the most knowledgeable, or he knows all, and he's Satchit Ananda Vigraha. Yeah, he's full of bliss, full of knowledge, and he sees that he's a spirit soul and not his body. So in that way we can be liberated and have a peaceful mind and have passions quieted. We no longer have to deal with all those desires that are going on in our head all the time. Our mind can become peaceful. And the process to do that is Krishna consciousness. So we take the instruction of the spiritual master and we try to serve him nicely and serve the devotees nicely. And in that way our minds can be quieted because we can fix our mind on the lotus feet of the Lord, which is service to the Lord. Text 28. Steady in the self, being freed from all material contamination, the yogi achieves the highest perfectional stage of happiness in touch with the supreme consciousness. Purport. Self-realization means knowing one's constitutional position in relationship to the Supreme. The individual soul is part and parcel of the Supreme, and his position is to render transcendental service to the Lord. This transcendental contact with the Supreme is called Brahma Sangsparsha. So not only do we have to be on the Brahma Bhuta stage, but we also have to have the knowledge that we are part and parcel of the Lord and that we are like a drop in the ocean and he is the ocean, and our position is to serve him. This is the constitutional position that Prabhupada is speaking of. We're the servant and he's the served. He's the enjoyer and we are the enjoyed. Although in this material world we try to be little enjoyers, but it doesn't last very long. And at the beginning it might be sweet to enjoy, but at the end it's quite bitter. And you can have an example of that by understanding all the different activities we've had throughout our lives. We've done some sport or some activity that we've enjoyed for a while, but that enjoyment was temporary. And then at the end we didn't like it anymore. It just became bland. But now we've hit the jackpot, being now we're tasting something that it might taste a little bitter at the beginning, but at the end we know it's going to taste quite nice. And we're not even going to care what it tastes like at the end. We just want to serve. So that's the highest stage. We don't want to even experience those ecstasies that Krishna gives. We just want to serve him. And sometimes, we might even think that those ecstasies get in the way of our service. So we ask, please stop these ecstasies so I can serve you nicely, Krishna. Text 29. A true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized man sees me everywhere. Purport. A Krishna-conscious yogi is the perfect seer because he sees Krishna, the Supreme, situated in everyone's heart as Supersoul, Paramatma. Ishvara sarvabhutanam hrideshe arjuna tishtati. The Lord in his Paramatma feature is situated within both the heart of the dog and that of a Brahmin. The perfect yogi knows that the Lord is eternally transcendental and is not materially affected by his presence in either a dog or a Brahmin. That is the supreme neutrality of the Lord. The individual soul is also situated in the individual heart, but he is not present in all hearts. That is the distinction between the individual soul and the supersoul. One who is not factually in the practice of yoga cannot see so clearly. A Krishna-conscious person who can see Krishna in the heart of both the believer and non-believer. In the Smriti, this is confirmed as follows. Atat bach cha matritwad atma hi paramo hrihi. The Lord, being the source of all beings, is like the mother and the maintainer. As the mother is neutral to all different kinds of children, the Supreme Father or Mother is also. Consequently, the supersoul is always in every living being. Outwardly also, every living being is situated in the energy of the Lord. As will be explained in the 7th chapter, the Lord has primarily two energies, the spiritual or superior and the material or inferior. The living entity, although part of the superior energy, is conditioned by the inferior energy. The living entity is always in the Lord's energy. Every living entity is situated in Him in one way or another. The yogi sees equally because he sees that all living entities, although in different situations according to the results of fruit of work in all circumstances, remain the servants of God. While in the material energy, the living entity serves the material senses, and while the spiritual energy, he serves the Supreme Lord directly. In either case, the living entity is the servant of God. This vision of equality is perfect in a person in Krishna consciousness. Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vididati Kaman. So Krishna is He's the Supreme. He has consciousness over everything. But as minute little spiritual sparks of that spiritual splendor of Krishna, we don't have that same consciousness. We're just little sparks. But we can attain a realization of being that spiritual spark. And then we can see that, what's that verse? Matra sparshas tu konteya shitoshna sukadukadaha agama payano nichas tam shatikshor sabarata. So we can see that these seasons go from winter to summer, to fall, to winter, to spring. It's all a rotation of seasons. But a person who is conscious of the fact that he's the spirit soul, he's not his body, he's disconnected from the senses, then he can be equipoised in between all of that. He can be happy, he can be joyful in between happiness and distress. His mind can be peaceful in between that. And with that peace comes actual happiness instead of this duality of happiness and distress. Prabhupada mentions in the last part of the purport here that we're part of the superior energy of the Lord. And in chapter 7, the next chapter, he goes in more in depth about the Lord's energies. But we're part of the spiritual energy, but we have been encaged somehow in the material energy because we wanted to be engaged. We wanted to see what it was like to enjoy, and Krishna fulfills all desires. So he put us in this material energy so we could try to enjoy just a little bit, but that little bit doesn't bring any sort of happiness. So with knowledge, we can come to understand that we're part of the superior energy of the Lord, and we can act in such a way. And we can see that others who are also in this peculiar situation, as we are, we can see that they're temporarily in that position. The only thing that separates them from love of Godhead is time. And that's us too. The only thing that separates us from true love of God is time. If we keep going like this, practicing devotional service, serving the spiritual master, serving the devotees, then we'll eventually attain the highest form of love of God. Prabhupada promised that. If we can follow his realizations on how we should follow based on the instruction of Krishna within him, then we can attain the highest form of love of Godhead. Wouldn't that be nice? Text 30. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. Purport. A person in Krishna consciousness certainly sees Lord Krishna everywhere, and he sees everything in Krishna. Such a person may appear to see all separate manifestations of the material nature, but in each and every instance he is conscious of Krishna, knowing that everything is the manifestation of Krishna's energy. Nothing can exist without Krishna, and Krishna is the Lord of everything. This is the basic principle of Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is the development of love of Krishna, a position transcendental even to material liberation. It is a stage beyond self-realization at which the devotee becomes one with Krishna in the sense that Krishna becomes everything for the devotee, and the devotee becomes full and loving Krishna. An intimate relationship between the Lord and the devotee then exists. In that stage, the living entity attains his immortality. Nor is the personality of Godhead ever out of sight of the devotee. To merge in Krishna is spiritual annihilation. A devotee takes no such risk. It is stated in the Brahma Samhita, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Hridayeshi Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundarama Chintya Guna Swarupam Govindamari Purusham Dhammaham Bhajami. I worship the primeval Lord Govinda, who is always seen by the devotee whose eyes are anointed with the pulp of love. He is seen in his eternal form of Shama Sundar, situated within the heart of the devotee. Brahma Samhita, chapter 5, text 38. At this stage, Lord Krishna never disappears from the sight of the devotee, nor does the devotee ever lose sight of the Lord. In the case of a yogi who sees the Lord as Paramatma within the heart, the same applies. Such a yogi turns into a pure devotee and cannot bear to live for a moment without seeing the Lord within himself. So nothing's disconnected from Krishna. Some people might ask, why, if there's God, why does he let so many people suffer? That's a big question people have. In the Western concept of God, such as in Christianity, there's not an answer for that. At least not a philosophical one. But in the Vedas we have this knowledge. We have knowledge of the laws of material nature. So if one puts their finger in fire, they're going to be burnt. There's no way around that. You will be burnt. And so the person who is speeding on the highway but does not know the speed limit is still going to be pulled over and given a ticket, even though he's ignorant of the speed limit. So sometimes there's a lot of, all the time, there's a lot of suffering going on in the world. And we don't want to be callous to those who are suffering, but we can understand ourselves that suffering is born of their own accord. Sometimes you can see exactly how that suffering comes about from that person's action in their life, but other times we can't quite see that. It's more subtle, or it's from a past life. There's thousands upon thousands of babies who don't come into the world. They don't come into the world crying for a mother to feed them. They are instead aborted. And that's a soul too. They were living. They had all the aspects of life. But that's how their life ended. And so that's a reaction to something they did. And again, we should not be callous to those who are suffering. We should give them the best gift of all that will alleviate their suffering, which is Krishna consciousness, which includes prasadam, nice sumptuous dishes, which includes devotees, which includes friends who know how to treat you, who don't want to just get something out of you. for their own sense gratification. They want to actually be there for you and see your life through with you. Then there's the chanting and the dancing and all the other special times we get to spend with our devotee friends. And so there's all those things that we can invite people to become a part of, and they can experience it and know the nectar that is Krishna consciousness. And they can come to understand that, oh yes, this is the greatest gift that I've ever received in my entire life. Because it's not just something that we do on Sundays, it's something we do every day. And it's something we're trying to practice every day. We're fine-tuning our consciousness to be aware of more things that are happening in the world. We fine-tune our consciousness to understand our own faults primarily. Because the only way we can help the world is if we help ourselves first. And in the Vedas, and on the direction of Srila Prabhupada, we understand that to purify our hearts, we have to practice the chanting of Hare Krishna. And it's the only benediction, it's the only way to do it in this age. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nastyeva, Nastyeva, Nastyeva Gatir Anyata. It's what we have to do in this age of Kali. Is chant the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And the more we chant, the more we can understand how much time we've wasted in our life not chanting the holy name. And it gets more acute, it works on us, but of course we don't dwell on that, but we do understand, within that statement, we understand that chanting is the best thing to do. And through that chanting we become purified, and then we get anointed with this pulp of love, and in that way we get to see Krishna. Text 31. The yogi who knows that I and the Supersoul within all creatures are one, worships me and remains always in me in all circumstances. Purport. A yogi who is practicing meditation on the Supersoul sees within himself the plenary portion of Krishna as Vishnu, with 4 hands holding conch shell, wheel, club, and lotus flower. The yogi should know that Vishnu is not different from Krishna. Krishna in this form of Supersoul is situated in everyone's heart. Furthermore, there is no difference between the innumerable Supersouls present in the innumerable hearts of living entities. Nor is there a difference between a Krishna-conscious person always engaged in the transcendental loving service of Krishna and a perfect yogi engaged in meditation on the Supersoul. The yogi in Krishna consciousness, even though he may be engaged in various activities while in material existence, remains always situated in Krishna. This is confirmed in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Srila Rupa Goswami. Nike leshu avastasu jivan mukta sauchate. A devotee of the Lord, always acting in Krishna consciousness, is automatically liberated. In the Narada Pancharatra, this is confirmed in this way. Dikkaladya navachine Krishne cheto vidayacha tanmayo bhavati kshipram jivo brahmani yo jayat. By concentrating one's attention on the transcendental form of Krishna, who is all-pervading and beyond time and space, one becomes absorbed in thinking of Krishna and then attains the happy state of transcendental association with him. Krishna consciousness is the highest stage of trance in yoga practice. This very understanding that Krishna is present as Paramatma in everyone's heart makes the yogi faultless. The Vedas confirm this inconceivable potency of the Lord as follows. Eko pisan bahuda yo vabhati Aishvarya Rupam Ekam Cha Suryavad Bahudeyate. Vishnu is one, and yet he is certainly all-pervading. By his inconceivable potency, in spite of his one form, he is present everywhere. As the sun, he appears in many places at once. So there's many Paramatmas, there's many incarnations of Krishna, like the one we just celebrated yesterday, Lord Ramachandra. That Lord Ramachandra is one of these incarnations, and that these incarnations are uncountable. They're compared to as waves in the ocean. There's so many you can't even count them. Just like all the spirit souls around us, there's so many we can't even count them. We can't even see them all. And little bacterias and little microbes, and every day we're chanting in the temple, and how many of those little microbes and other living entities are catching this vibration of the holy name and becoming purified by it too. Just like we can have Sankirtan, we can have Harinam on the plaza, we can also have Harinam in the forest. Because there's plenty of living entities out there too that need to hear the chanting of Hare Krishna. Text 32. He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings, both in their happiness and distress, O Arjuna. Purport. One who is Krishna conscious is a perfect yogi. He is aware of everyone's happiness and distress by dint of his own personal experience. The cause of the distress of a living entity is forgetfulness of his relationship with God. And the cause of happiness is knowing Krishna to be the supreme enjoyer of all the activities of the human being. Krishna is the proprietor of all lands and planets. The perfect yogi is the sincerest friend of all living entities. He knows that the living being who is conditioned by the modes of material nature is subjected to the threefold material miseries due to forgetfulness of his relationship with Krishna. Because one in Krishna consciousness is happy, he tries to distribute the knowledge of Krishna everywhere. Since the perfect yogi tries to broadcast the importance of becoming Krishna conscious, he is the best philanthropist in the world, and he is the dearest servitor of the Lord. Na tasmat kaschid me prirakrit tamaha. In other words, a devotee of the Lord always looks to the welfare of all living entities, and in this way he is factually the friend of everyone. He is the best yogi because he does not desire perfection and yoga for his personal benefit, but tries for others also. He does not envy his fellow living entities. He is a contrast between a pure devotee of the Lord and a yogi interested only in his personal elevation. The yogi who has withdrawn to a secluded place in order to meditate perfectly may not be as perfect as a devotee who is trying his best to turn every man toward Krishna consciousness. So that's the best thing we can do with our life, is try to spread this Krishna consciousness. And there's so many different ways to do that. You could be working as a teacher at a school and have a picture of Lord Chaitanya at your desk, and all the students are at some point taking darshan of Lord Chaitanya, and they're becoming purified by that. You could have a Bhagavad Gita on your desk that you read on your free time, and the students just see it, and that becomes an imprint on their mind, and they make advancement by that. Then there's prasadam. We all know the power of prasadam. Carob chocolate, or carob chip cookies. Yeah. With a little bit of special milk from the Lord. Yeah, so there's so many opportunities for us to spread Krishna consciousness. And the spreading of Krishna consciousness makes us happy. We're happy to expose others to Krishna consciousness. It's not a sad thing to do. It's a happy thing. And there's so many different ways to do it. Okay, I think I'll end there. Is there any questions, comments? Jagannath Ji?
Should I go to the other side?
Oh.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna say one quick one. So, I hope it's not a bad question. So earlier you said that the only thing between Krishna and us is time. Is it wrong to take it slowly? Like take it, like you heard that saying, slowly but surely? Is there something wrong with that idea?
No, but we should understand the thoughts and feelings behind that. So, it does take a long time to become purified, to rid ourselves of bad habits. So in that way we have to take it slowly. But also like Krishna, we can become Krishna consciousness in a moment. Prabhupada says that. It can happen right away. Depends on our surrender. So of course we have so many things we're coming to Krishna consciousness with. Baggage, you could say. That might take us a while to offload. And that's okay. Every spirit soul is different. Every spirit soul is going to take a certain amount of time to purify themselves and to rid themselves of anarthas or unwanted things. So it's a slow process. Krishna consciousness is generally a slow process for most. But within that process, there's experiences that are formative for us and really cement our faith in Krishna. And faith in Krishna means following Krishna's his suggestions to us to do. Right? And in the Bhagavad Gita, it says, Krishna says, that is my opinion. So in that, he's giving Arjuna the opportunity to choose for himself, because that is our choice. We have that choice too, to choose what we want to do with our time. But in the beginning stages, we can try to dovetail everything we do for Krishna. You know, we can spend time with our family for Krishna. We can work for Krishna. There's so many things, like I was saying earlier, there's so many service opportunities in Krishna consciousness. Of course, if we have doubts about that, we can ask someone who is more experienced than we are, who's more experienced in devotional service and in life in general. The senior devotees are perfect for that. So yes, we can take it slow, but it depends on the attitude we have behind that slowness. Is that slowness? Yeah, I'll just leave it there. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jagannath Ji? Thanks, Bhakta Juan.
So we were reading in the purport that it is a risk to merge into Krishna or into his Brahman effulgence, and I was just wondering why this is. Like, is it because I was just thinking, like, is it because we have a chance to fall down again, or is there something I know we shouldn't aim for the Brahma Jyoti, but like, why is it seen as risky?
Is it 30?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know.
I think it is the stage
Yeah.
beyond self-realization at which the devotee becomes one with Krishna, in the sense that Krishna becomes everything for the devotee, and the devotee becomes full in loving Krishna. Is it related to that, your question?
It says to merge in Krishna is spiritual annihilation. A devotee takes no such risk.
Yeah.
How is it annihilation if we don't die?
Well, basically we're denying the fact that we're individuals and we have to act. We think we just become one. But basically we're just like in the Brahma Jyoti platform, we're just floating with other spirit souls in Krishna's effulgence. So it's in some way it's an artificial position that can't be maintained, because part of our quality as a spirit soul is we desire, and we desire a relationship. And on the Brahma Jyoti stage, there is no relationship. So there's no sambandha. And when there's no sambandha, there's no ananda. So there's no bliss, actual bliss. There might be some little faint of bliss, because when you're on the Brahma Jyoti stage, you're not experiencing the material suffering that you would be experiencing in the material world. So you have like the absence of material suffering, which could seem like it's blissful, but it's not. And we could think about that here in this life, like someone trying to spend all the time alone. They can, and that's not going to, get them anywhere. They're going to be lonely. So there's some special people out there who can do that, but Prabhupada's not recommending that. So Prabhupada's recommending that we try to serve Krishna the best we can, and we'll come to understand Krishna, and we'll build that friendship and that loving relationship with Krishna through learning how to love the devotees and serve the devotees, through learning how to love the spiritual master and serve the spiritual master. And in that way we can develop our relationship with Krishna, one step at a time. I think Radhastelli had a question. Comment? You have a comment? Yeah, you got to come over here though with the mic.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for your nice class and sharing your realizations. I had some thoughts I wanted to add more to your answers to their questions, actually, and another comment that I wrote in my notes, or that I read in Bhagavad Gita, actually, that you read, sorry. So to Juan's question of is it wrong to want to go slowly? And what came to my mind is that, Krishna just wants our love, and he doesn't want us to force, you can't force love for somebody, for Krishna. So however long it takes us to develop that love and surrender for Krishna, then we take that time. To Jagannath's question, I was also thinking that you began to say that we're denying our individuality, but I think we're also denying our position as being servant of Krishna. So we're thinking, I want to be one with Krishna, but we are naturally servants, so that's out of our natural state to be Krishna, to be one with him. It's our natural state to serve him with love.
To have relationships.
To have a relationship with him, yeah. I need a Gita. But there's a part where Prabhupada was speaking about how everyone is ultimately serving Krishna, no matter what circumstance they're in. I forget what purport it was, but I just really appreciated him saying that, like how everyone's in different circumstances, being influenced by the modes of nature, or dealing with the reactions of their fruitive work. And yet every single person is serving Krishna. All little bugs to everyone in this material, every living being in the material world is serving Krishna, maybe directly or indirectly, but it's just really nice to see that. It's a nice meditation for me, because like I separate or I distinguish and I say like that's a devotee and that's a non-devotee. But like it's really nice to like get past that, or try to, and see like, oh, actually everyone is serving Krishna, but in time, like you're saying, they can develop love for him and remember like their purpose. And yeah.
It's a very merciful statement by Prabhupada. Right? And it's, Krishna is saying, Yeyatam mam prabhajante tam sadaiva bhajamaham. Mama vartmanu vartante manusya parta sarvashaha. To all those who are serving me, or I'll just read it 4:11. All of them, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. Those are really nice comments you had. Thank you. When the husband speaks, the wife speaks too. Rishi Kumar, would you like to have a question too? Or is there a question online? Please, make a big one too.
I just liked the points you're making, emphasizing service to Krishna around the end here, and also the purport at the end of it was emphasizing that. Srila Prabhupada was saying, the yogi who has withdrawn to a secluded place in order to meditate perfectly may not be as perfect as a devotee who is trying his best to turn every man toward Krishna consciousness. And that part there is really nice, because Krishna is saying the same thing to Arjuna. Like just a chapter ago, Arjuna was misunderstanding what Krishna was describing in the 4th chapter about transcendental knowledge and getting to know who is God, what is the soul, these things. And so at the beginning, he was saying, Krishna, first of all, you ask me to renounce work, and then again you recommend work with devotion. Now will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial? And Krishna says, renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation. But of the two, work in devotional service is better than renunciation of work. And so I just wanted to point out, well, why is that? Because the one person who's going out to the forest, okay, I'm going to go learn about the Supreme, what is the soul, who am I? Ultimately, he comes to the realization that serving God or serving Krishna is the best. So then he comes back and does the work for Krishna. Whereas one who just starts at the very beginning with, as Krishna is saying in that chapter, karma yoga, action in Krishna consciousness, one who starts right then acting for Krishna, it's better because Krishna is explaining the other path is indirect. Whereas if you it would be better to just start here, just start working for me now, rather than going off, learning that you should work for me, then coming back and working for me. So both Prabhupada and Krishna are saying that it's better just to serve Krishna right from the beginning. And then one will naturally want to know who is Krishna, what is the soul, how can I serve him better. All these things will come, that knowledge that one might say, I'm going to go off and cultivate on my own. That will come just by doing the service to Krishna automatically.
We can't know what the president likes unless we ask someone who loves him. We can't, think in our mind, oh, what is he like, and it's going to come to us. It's not going to not going to come to us. That's very like indirect way you could say. But directly to understand and know the president, for example, we have to ask those who are serving him already, have some realization of that. So to get to know God, we have to ask those who know God. And we can understand how to know God from the sadhus, from Shastra, and from Guru. And in that way we can understand who is Krishna, what am I, why am I here? All those existential questions that people are asking on a daily basis. And hopefully we can get them books so they can have the answers. Thanks everyone for attending the class. Thanks to all those that are online. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful rest of your evening. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Vanchakalpa Tribhrachcha Kripa Sindhubheva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo